take a deep breath in. As you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just allow your eyelids to close. That's it. As you breathe in, continue to breathe in this feeling of calm and relaxation. And as you exhale, just allow any feelings of tension, stress, anxiety, or worry to leave your body in your outward breath, enabling you to feel deeper and deeper relaxed just by breathing in and breathing out. As you continue to breathe in and breathe out, I want you to hold an image in your mind of a patient receiving a blood transfusion. At some level, perhaps, the patient has contaminated blood, and there is healthy blood going into their body through a drip. So, as the unhealthy blood is leaving their body, clean, healthy blood is going in. And I want you to imagine, as you're breathing in this resourceful feeling of relaxation, useful, powerful resources are going in. And as you exhale, anything undesirable is leaving your body. And you get to decide what that is. Any feelings of anger, any feelings of shame, any resentment, any emotion at all that is not serving you in this moment, feel that it is leaving you in your outward breath, so that you continue to breathe in this resourceful feeling of relaxation and exhale anything that is undesirable, treating it almost like a transfusion of resources, enabling you to feel more relaxed, more resourceful, simply by breathing in and breathing out. And as your body relaxes, I want you to use the power of your imagination to imagine walking through the woods or even a forest. I want you to imagine that you can see the brownness of the bark. Maybe you can still see a bit of the skies above. I want you to get a sense that there are leaves on the path in front. And you can become aware of the density of all of these trees and the varieties of trees, just enabling you to feel peaceful as you walk through these woods. And I want you to imagine that somewhere in this woods is just a bench, somewhere to sit down. And I want you to notice the leaves on the trees, perhaps the leaves on the path. And just imagine sitting on this bench, looking out to the trees in front and starting to think about your past. And I want you to imagine in front of you is a bubble bigger than you are. And accept the suggestion that this bubble enables you to go forwards and backwards in time. That anything inside the bubble becomes invisible. That it is transparent and you can see through it. And it is impenetrable, stronger than bulletproof glass. You're able to pass in and pass out, but nothing else can come in and nothing else can go out. And I want you to imagine walking into this life-size bubble and feeling that you're floating up through the treetops and starting to go backwards in time. And I want you to imagine, safe in this bubble, you're going all the way back in time. Back in time to when you were perhaps a baby or a small infant. You're back in that home, but from the perspective of being in this bubble, completely invisible to anyone else, and just observing what happens. And I want you to see the interaction, perhaps the very first interaction, between you as a baby or a small child and your father, who was yelling or was angry in that moment. And I want you to observe it, at how strange it seems that a full-grown man could be shouting at this vulnerable, innocent child. I want you to feel a connection between you and that child, that what this child needed was protection, but instead was receiving perhaps the anger or frustration from the person that was meant to protect. I want you to observe it safe in this floating bubble, there back then, completely invisible to anyone else. They don't know you're there. And I want you to imagine that time passes until this small infant is on their own, perhaps in a different room, perhaps in a different place. And then I want you to emerge from your bubble, and I want you to be there for that vulnerable child. Maybe this child isn't old enough to understand, but I want you to let this child know that that wasn't okay. Maybe that child needs to be hugged or held. Maybe that child needs to be told that they are loved, that they are worthy, that they are valuable. I want you to give that child what it really needed back then. I want you to be a father figure for this child. Hold this child. Care for this child. And if this child is old enough to articulate its worries, its concerns, I want you to listen. And if not, just imagine you've got the ability to read the mind of this child and allow this child to telepathically let you know their worries and their concerns and their fears. And just listen, because no one was listening to this child, and now you are. And I want you to communicate back, either verbally or through thoughts from your mind to theirs, that they are loved, that they are accepted, that they are important, and that nothing about them needs to change, that they are valid and worthy exactly as they are. And once this small child, this infant, has processed that you're there to help, to accept, and to protect, just let me know by nodding your head. I want you to say goodbye to this child. Give them a hug, maybe kiss them on their head, and then climb back in your bubble. And then I wanted you to go forwards in time to a time perhaps where you were maybe just 10, 11 years old, where something happened when you were terribly confused. You didn't know what to do. There was a lack of guidance, a lack of support, a lack of encouragement. And if you can recall that memory, let me know by nodding your head. And you're safe in that bubble, observing what happened, seeing that there was this confused boy. And the boy was desperately needing reassurance, help, support, encouragement. And the person that should have been giving that was strangely silent. And I want you to imagine that in this bubble you've got the ability to manipulate time. I want you to rewind this confusing incident, to climb out of your bubble. And I want you to show this 10 or 11-year-old boy how to tie a knot, a specific type of knot, that everyone around you is paused, frozen in time. It's just you and this boy that needed help, needed encouragement, needed support. And you can keep practicing this knot until this boy gets it perfectly. And I want you to give this boy tips and advice about how to be confident in this race, but also how to be confident in life. Tell this boy that you believe in them, that they are loved, they are worthy, and they don't need to change. They are acceptable exactly as they are. And then rewind it before this incident, perhaps a race, even took place. And this time observe from the bubble a very different child. A child that wasn't confused. A child that knew exactly how to do what was necessary to cope with the demand of that situation. And instead of seeing a lost, confused boy, you're seeing a boy that was protected, guided, and helped. And I want you to see that he successfully tied those knots, was running back and forth, and did well in that race. And from your bubble, I want you to cheer for them, encourage them, support them. Be the father to this boy that he didn't have, rooting for him to win, cheering him on, protecting him. And maybe you can observe someone around mocking this boy, criticizing this boy, and I want you to emerge from your bubble and put them in their place. You are a protector to this boy. You are a guardian of this boy. And then I want you to imagine after the race is finished, you find some time around this place just to perhaps eat or talk with this boy and just hear the worries, the frustrations. Just listen to them about how they think about the world and what's important to them. And keep giving them that validation, that encouragement, that support. Tell them they're capable of amazing things, that you believe in them, that they are worthy, they're acceptable, that they don't have to change to fit someone else's idea of what's okay, that they are acceptable as they are. And give this boy a hug, a proper hug, like a father should give to their son. That's it. And tell them that whenever they need help, advice, that you'll be there in a moment. And then I want you to climb back in your bubble and go forwards in time to a moment where you saw a boy that was resentful, felt humiliated, felt rejected, was making evaluations that no one's going to support them, so they have to do it themselves. They've got to take care of themselves. And I want you to find an appropriate place to be there for that child and to let them know that you're there to listen. And you've got the very unique skills of being able to listen better than most. And listen you will. And you listen to this child. What are they angry about? What are they frustrated with? What are they annoyed by? No judgment, just listen. You're not trying to fix them, you're not trying to change them. Just listen. And notice that that's enough. That what this child needed was someone to hear their view of the world. Not trying to change them, to toughen them up, but to accept them without judgment and listen. And I want you to imagine that you're giving this child a resource that it needed back then. Maybe that was self-love. Maybe that was courage, self-acceptance. But give this child what it needed the most back then. And feel this child accepting that. But also this child has something to give to you. Something you had as a child that you've lost connection with. A resource that you used to have that you've lost in some way. You're giving the child what it needs most, and this child is giving you now, in the present, what you need most. And your intuition knows what that is. And accept that gift and be grateful for that gift. And hold it to your chest and feel that you're absorbing that resource, the resource that you need most right now. And I want you to get a sense that you're righting some wrongs and you're giving this child's childhood a positive male role model, acceptance, validation. And I want you to give some advice to this child, knowing what happens later in your life, perhaps things that you would, with the benefit of hindsight, preferred not to have done. I want you to be a teacher to this boy. And as you share that advice, you're not telling this boy what to do, but just options. The boy will make their own choices. It takes courage to be true to yourself. And a vulnerable boy that always felt like an outcast, it's difficult to feel courageous. So you're giving this boy the courage to be true to themselves. I want you to hug this boy, climb back in your bubble and go forward in time to one final memory. Where this boy was in their late teens looking out at all those houses, thinking about all the fathers that were in those houses. And I want you to emerge from your bubble and to sit next to this teenage boy. So the boy is looking at all the fathers in those houses, thinking how lucky those other children are to have a strong father in their life. And I want you to be that strong father for that teenage version of you looking at all those. all those rooftops and houses. Put your arm around their shoulder and just say, I'm here for you. Be the father to yourself that you never had. And tell them you believe in them. You love them, you accept them. They are valuable and they don't need to change. And if this teenage boy is grateful for you being there at that point in time and that they value your acceptance, let me know by nodding your head. Just spend time with this teenage boy. Let them know that you're always going to be there for them. And there's one final trip on this journey through time. I want you to go to a point where you get to meet your father before you were even born. Maybe you can see your mother pregnant with you. And I want you to emerge from your bubble and meet your father before you were even born. And I want you to tell him that you are his unborn son from the future. And I want you to tell him that you forgive him. He is a byproduct of the time in which he was born, the culture in which he existed, the values that were enforced on him. I want you to tell him that you understand, but also I want you to project all those moments of pain and trauma and rejection that you experienced throughout your childhood and stream it directly into the mind of a man that wasn't yet a father. Giving him an insight into the consequences of that yelling, the consequences of trying to fix or change someone against who they were. Let him experience all the pain that you experienced to create a feeling of empathy and understanding in him. And when you've done that, let me know by nodding your head. And if you can find it within you to forgive him, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And I want you to give your father a hug, even though you weren't technically born yet. And to tell him that you believe he has the capability of being a good father if he looks inwards. I want you to say goodbye to your father and see him. He was young, he was naive, he had no experience of being a father. Say goodbye, climb back in your bubble, and then travel all the way to the future. Accepting that when we make changes to our evaluations of the past, just like the butterfly effect, there's a ripple through time that carries all the way to the present. And I want you to hover all the way back to over a woods or a forest and see a version of you sitting on a bench and then hovering all the way down, but taking all these profound changes with you. Seeing that person on the bench is somehow slightly different. not holding on to the resentment, the shame. They've been able to let that go. And then step into that new version of you where you've got a better relationship with yourself and are experiencing the echoes of self-acceptance that you had all throughout your childhood, as those seeds have been planted deep in the timeline of your past. And then imagine walking back out of the forest and finding yourself fully in the present, listening to my voice. As you take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose, just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, get a sense that you're back fully in the present right now, as I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count to awaken. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.